Factory activity has picked up. The ABSA Purchasing Managers Index is back in expansion territory with a reading of 52.4 points in July. That's from 45.7 in June. The improvement was supported by better demand both locally and globally. The data shows that factory owners are also optimistic about their future prospects. The index tracking expected business conditions in 6 months' time rose to 69.4 points. This is the most confident manufacturers have been about what lies ahead since early 2022. Anhueser-Busch InBev has reported a forecast beat in core profit for the second quarter. The world's largest brewer by volumes has posted a 10.2% rise in normalized core profit for the period. This is greater than the 8.3% growth analysts had expected. CEO Michel Ducaris says he is encouraged by the group's performance and the focus remains on consistent execution of the group's strategy. AB InBev has kept its full-year outlook for core profit growth within a range of 4 to 8%. Mondi has posted a 17% decline in first half underlying earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortisation. But the packaging and paper company's CEO, Andrew King, says this reflects an encouraging performance. That's as the result was supported by improved market conditions, which translated into a stronger order book and higher sales volumes. This allowed the group to implement a number of price increases across its paper grades. That, along with lower input costs, resulted in Mondi delivering a sequential improvement in underlying EBITDA when compared to the second half of 2023. King added that the benefit of price increases will continue into the second half of the year. An interim dividend of 23 has been declared. This is in line with the previous period's payout. A special dividend of 160 has also been declared. ArcelorMittal South Africa has sunk further into the red. The steel producer has posted a first half headline loss of 1.1 billion rand. This compares to a loss of 448 million rand during the previous comparable period. The company says this was due to difficult trading conditions and operational interruptions at its Vanderbijl Park blast furnace. ArcelorMittal SA says that while the global and local steel markets remain challenging, it does see potential for a gradual recovery in the second half. Given this, the firm hopes to return to profitability as operations improve and production volumes increase. Capital & Regional has reported a 17% rise in net rental income at the halfway stage. That's as the UK shopping centre owner benefited from strong demand from retailers for space, especially in London. An interim dividend of 2.85 pence per share has been declared. Impact has inked a deal to sell its VersaPack business. The packing and recycling group will hand over the unit to Seneca. The transaction carries a price tag of 267 million rand. The deal still needs the approval of South African competition authorities, but Impact expects the deal to be finalized in the fourth quarter. The firm says the sale of VersaPack aligns with its portfolio optimization plan as the business's products don't fully align with Impact's strategy. Quantum Foods has advised shareholders that Countrybird has addressed another letter to the company's board calling for a shareholders' meeting. The meeting is for the specific purpose of the proposed removal of Pieter-François de Roonburger, who is an independent non-executive director of the company. This follows a previous letter to the board that called for a shareholder meeting to remove Chair Wouter Hanekom and lead independent director Jeffrey Fortune. Further afield, the Bank of England cut interest rates from a 16-year high after a narrow vote in favour for policymakers divided over whether inflation pressures had eased sufficiently. Let's take a look at this report for more.
The Bank of England cut interest rates from a 16-year high on Thursday, but it was a close decision. 5 members of the central bank's governing body voted in favour of the move, believing inflation pressures had eased enough for a cut, while 4 were against. They agreed to lower rates by a quarter point to 5%. However, Central Bank Governor Andrew Bailey said they would move cautiously going forward. He said they needed to make sure inflation stays low and be careful not to cut interest rates too quickly or by too much. Rates have been on hold for almost a year, and Thursday saw the first cut since the start of the pandemic in March 2020. British consumer price inflation returned to the bank's 2% target in May and stayed there in June. This leaves British inflation lower than in the Eurozone and United States. The central bank is focused on what it sees as medium-term drivers of inflation. It includes services prices, wage growth and more general tightness in the labour market. Services inflation came in well above forecasts in June, but the bank put this down to volatile components. Wage growth at nearly 6% is almost double the rate the bank views as consistent with 2% inflation, but it is slowing in line with expectations. However, the bank warned there is a risk inflation pressures might prove more persistent and keep it above target for longer than its main forecast.
And CrowdStrike has been sued by shareholders who said the cybersecurity company defrauded them by concealing how its inadequate software testing could cause the July 19 global outage that crashed more than 8 million computers. Here's more detail in this package reports.
A global outage that saw planes grounded, banks shut and government services disrupted is now the focus of a US courtroom battle. Shareholders have sued CrowdStrike, the cybersecurity company behind the software update that crashed more than 8 million computers. They argue the firm defrauded them by concealing how its inadequate software testing could cause the outage. Shareholders said they learned CrowdStrike's assurances about its technology were materially false and misleading. They said CrowdStrike's share price fell nearly a third over the following 12 days, wiping out $25 billion of market value.
That screen is not normal.
The complaint cites statements from this year where CEO George Kurtz characterized CrowdStrike's software as validated, tested and certified. On Wednesday, the company said it believed the case lacked merit and would vigorously defend itself. The lawsuit seeks unspecified damages for holders of its Class A shares between November 29th last year and July 29th, 2024. Shareholders often sue firms after unexpected negative news causes stock prices to fall, and CrowdStrike could face more lawsuits. Delta chief executive Ed Bastian told CNBC the outage cost his airline $500 million. That included lost revenue and compensation and hotels for stranded flyers. CrowdStrike's CEO has also been called to testify to US Congress about the incident.